Marlene Byrne is the founder of Project Play. It's a whole, I guess, an initiative to get kids back out in the backyard and doing the things we did 20, 30 years ago when we were all kids, before there were internet connections and cable TV and everything else we
Right.
have in the world these days, which can be so great and yet take away so much from our lives. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me about Project Play. What spurred you to start this?
We really started Project Play, or I did, by journaling to my kids. I grew up in a small town. I wanted my children to know how to play backyard games, and I was journaling to them and kind of explaining these great backyard games that we did as kids. I was working in an ad agency and met an illustrator named Jesse Graber who said, that's such a great idea. He had grown up in Kansas and was here in Chicago. And we decided to formulate these into books, and he illustrates, I write. And each one of the books is sort of a fictional story about this great group of kids that go out and play. And after you read one of the stories, you'll understand one backyard game to play.
So it's really a neat idea because you've got books for older kids, Kick the Can, Ghost in the Graveyard, and then books for little kids, simpler games, and the rhyming books, Follow the Leader, a baseball game.
Right.
Tell me about how you teach the kids to play the games within the context of getting them interested in a book.
Right. So each one of the books, for example, the younger books are rhyming. So again, probably read by a parent, maybe read by a kid, but rhyming helps children learn to read and to read those words that rhyme together. So it's a great way to kind of bring games down to a younger level. The games that are in those books, like you said, are Treasure Hunt, where it's a game where, parents can work with their kids to do treasure hunts. Kids can do treasure hunts for themselves. We started with my kids doing treasure hunts where all the clues were just pictures. So we would draw a little bed or draw a little chair, and they would have to go find the next clue. So even before they're reading, they can be playing that game. And of course, they get harder and harder as we get older. And then the chapter books are for the little bit older group that might want to play outside at night with their friends and play Kick the Can and Ghost in the Graveyard and all those great games that we played as kids.
Well, the interesting thing is, so you say get out at night and play these games with their friends like Ghost in the Graveyard. And I remember playing Ghost in the Graveyard. I remember playing ball tag. We'd wait until it was dark.
Yeah.
And then there'd be 30 kids in the neighborhood running around, climbing on roofs, throwing a tennis ball at each other.
Absolutely.
I would never let my kids do these things that we did. I wouldn't even let my kids out of the house at night, basically. And basically today, we don't let our kids out of our sight.
Well, I think there's a number of reasons why backyard play has diminished. And they say play in general has diminished for children 25% since 1980.
Wow.
At the same time, obesity between kids aged 2 and 5 has doubled, and between 6 and 11 has tripled. So as you start to see less movement and less activity and more video games, you're starting to see this whole trend. And I just don't believe that exercise for children should be a chore. It should be something that we did as fun. We were running around the backyard and we were having fun. Again, I think there are different things that parents consider now. First of all, the families aren't as big. So our older siblings taught us how to play these games because the one thing about backyard games that's different from almost anything we do is that different ages can play together. It's not about you're in 3rd grade, so you are on this team, and you are in 4th grade, and you are on this team. Everybody plays together. So there's a sense of neighborhood that I think that we have to work a little bit harder at right now. There's also the safety issue. I mean, parents don't want their kids running the neighborhood, so you have to kind of be a little bit more careful. Maybe it's parents are sitting outside watching them with a bonfire, and the kids are out there playing, but that doesn't mean they can't get out and play. And I think the other thing that we all need to remember is that all of the things that we do now, and I am not a person that says, oh, organized sports are terrible.
Right.
My kids have to pick 2 a season. That's the rule. Because we cannot be overtaken by this scheduling and this, we got to be here and then we got to be there and there's practice. And organized sports tends to have a very high level of competition, but a very low level of thinking for children. So I always say when you have to get kids out in the backyard and they have to play by themselves and there's no ref, and there's no coach, they have to learn these negotiation skills between their group of peers. They have to be creative about how they play. So if you want to have a baseball game and there's not enough kids to play, hey, right field is an automatic out and we don't put anybody over there. They have to get a little creative. If you remember those baseball games where we would throw down our gloves and play. So some of those types of skills that I think make them good leaders and that take them into the future, they're missing because they stand there waiting for the ref to make the call and the coach to tell them what to do. The other thing that's important to think about is when they play video games, it's the exact same structure. You go from level 1 to level 2 and you follow what they tell you to do to reach the next level. There's not a lot of creativity in that. So I think it's just that we want to remind parents that, hey, this is a good thing too. Playtime is a good thing for children.
Well, it's really kind of a perfect storm, everything that you're mentioning here. In the last 20 years, how many families have dual incomes now because out of necessity, let's face it, it's hard for
Right.
a mom or dad to get to stay home with the kids anymore. Because of that, we're eating far fewer meals probably that we're cooking. We're picking up food a lot more, contributing to the obesity. We're overscheduling the kids, as you say. We're not allowing enough free play. And the media that has taken over. I mean, a recent study, I think, by the Kaiser Foundation found that kids between, I think, 8 and 18 are spending an average of 7 hours a day in front of media. So if you take out school and sleeping, that's
Right.
pretty much every waking moment we're
It
in front
is.
of some type of media.
Right.
So we really need to get the kids running around more
Right.
and doing that
Right.
stuff. I coach my older son's little league team, and he's 8.5 years old.
Yeah.
So now we're getting to this age, which is funny because when I was a child, this was my first year of organized sports.
Right.
8 years old. Now he's in like his fifth year of it.
Right.
And now they're keeping score. Now we've got umpire.
Yeah.
Now we're doing everything for real.
Yeah.
And we're trying to win games.
Right.
And so you've got this dilemma about who do you sit, where do you play them? You don't want to put kids at 8 years of age into the outfield because you've already decided they can't do it.
Yeah. It's crazy. But
and
they will do it to win the game.
well, and that's where you're at. Is like,
Yeah.
what do we do here?
Yeah.
Does he pitch or does he not pitch? We've got a chance to come back, and so it's very hard on the parents as
Yes,
well.
I agree. There's a positive coaching alliance here in Chicago that does a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful job of trying to talk to coaches and talk to parents about, kind of taking that deep breath and realizing that, we're not winning the major league game here.
Right.
And they have come out with some statistics on, the amount of violence between parents and refs and parents and coaches that have happened on a little league level.
Yeah.
And in softball, it is crazy. What are we doing? We're showing our kids that winning at all costs is the most important thing. And we're forgetting, I think sometimes if you sit back in the bleachers, are you looking out at the kids and saying, are they having any fun? Or is this another thing they have to do? And I definitely think there are those kids that are competitive by nature and good athletes. However, some of those kids that blossom very early are going to stop growing. And the kids that grow later are going to grow past them. And those kids that we've stuck out in the outfield when they were young, are they going to be able to play the sport or enjoy the sport because they were forgotten when they were too short, and now they're going to be 6'3"?
Right.
So I think those are all things that the Positive Coaching Alliance does a really good job of trying to talk about that. But it's the same thing. We need to make sure that kids are getting out time to play and have fun, whether it is baseball or not. The fact that a kid said to me that you can't play baseball without a team and a coach and a ref. And I'm like, yeah, that's really scary that they think that, and that is, their life and their experience.
Marlene Byrne is the founder of Project Play. ProjectPlaybooks.com is the website. The latest book is Ghost in the Graveyard, but there are many titles available for young kids and kids who are reading on their own to get
Right.
them out and
Yeah.
active. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.